Joseph Eruge has joined me today on our show, and he's a repeat guest on our platform. We have hosted him on TGV 417, part of the TGV Global Speaker Series, where he covered a topic on entrepreneurship, struggles of most startups, and how to mitigate them. And it is one of the best episodes among the Global Speaker Festival episodes. And today we are prepared to delve into our conversation on the topic at hand, failing forward. But before we get started, let us tickle his brain. So, Joseph, get ready for a rapid fire round of random words. I know you are familiar with the format, but the words are different. I'm going to mention a few, and I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind in response without thinking much. If you are ready, let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started.
School,
School, Uniben,
animal,
Tiger,
game,
PS5,
power,
electricity,
goal,
Ronaldo.
growth,
It's inevitable.
opportunity,
Opportunity comes and go. Okay.
network.
A glow. I'm going to say glow.
Okay. And position or title.
CEO.
Okay. Wonderful. And the last word is failure.
Fail forward.
Superb. Thank you for participating in the rapid fire round. And before I welcome you, let me welcome the audience. So, folks, welcome to TGV, the Guiding Watch podcast series where we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. I'm your host, Naveen Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place through valuable discussions that add value not only to your life but also to your career. And, folks, remember, the Guiding Voice is the world's only quadrilingual podcast which is available in English, Hindi, Telugu, and Kannada at the time of this recording. But by the time it gets launched, it will be available in few more languages. So thank you so much for tuning in. And Joseph, hearty welcome to TGV. Welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very great. Thank you, Naveen. Being here again feels like home. Yeah, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, just like you did the first time. I know we had a bit of hiccup here and there, and we are here today, so I'm grateful. Thank you.
Most welcome, and let's get started, Joseph. So please share a pivotal failure you have experienced and how it set the stage for later success.
Okay, I think failure is something that's common to everybody. At certain point in life, you definitely will find yourself in a place that looks a bit dark. That you probably need someone to shine the light or need a way to find your path. So failure is very, very synonymous to a lot of people. And for me, I had that, I think I've had it a couple of times. Yeah, it's not something that you eliminate. Um, that's the notion a lot of people have, that failure is sort of an end game to things. But what this conversation is supposed to open up to us today is the fact that failure isn't the end, or rather setbacks are not the end. You get, it's when you call it quits that you eventually failed. Failure is the process. Yeah. So considering that, I'll say I failed a lot of times. Starting my business, I had a bit of failure. I could recall. It's very funny, but starting a business as an entrepreneur or as an individual has its own share of difficulties, especially in a market where you are not known. Again, you're trying to break in, so people don't easily trust to give their money just to anybody. Yeah. So even with you feeling like, oh, you could handle projects, you could still get to a point where you messed up a project completely. And I've also seen that in my own. So I could say failure for me is a growing stage. Like, you get to fail, reconsider your steps, and then walk over those parts. Walk with the mind that, okay, this was a lesson. What did I learn from this? How do I go forward with this? So failure is an ever growing process. It's always going to be there. I failed too. Like I said, in business, growing up, I had also failures too to recount. So that's just about it.
Okay, got it. And thank you for sharing your perspective. That's wonderful. Joseph, can you differentiate between a setback and a failure, and what strategies do you use to navigate each of them?
Oh, okay. So, like I was saying a while ago, setbacks and failure. Yeah, so failure is like the end result. Setbacks usually come up. They are just, I see them as stepping stone, what you probably use to get to the next stage, because
Hmm.
every stage of your life has a door, sort of, that you need to open up. Yeah, so you can't just go on to the next level without having a test. Just like it's in schools. Yeah, you get to go through a process of learning. After you learning, you are expected to write a test or an examination. So setbacks are like those examinations you get to write. So eventually, if you decide not to push through, you are going to have failure, because at the end tail, if you decide, okay, you are giving up at this point, then failure is what you get eventually. Or if you do decide to push through that setback, you fail forward into success. So all of these are just intertwined. They are
Mhm.
stories that everybody has lived in. Of course, I could just share a bit of my story here. While I was growing up as a kid, I had these reservations. I was a reserved person, so I got bullied a lot growing up, and it's one of those things that we get to see as, let's say, quiet people, if that's what I should put it. Yeah, so you get to see where people feel like your opinions against theirs, and they try to step on you, try to get you to be quiet about what you have to say. So with that, I found myself going into that place where I wasn't outspoken. I just tried to keep to myself. Yeah, even in high school or secondary school, I also had that to battle with, where the teacher feels like you're not getting a particular thing that they are saying, and eventually they go all out on you and say negative things to you. So you see those things growing up. Those are challenges, those are setbacks, you
Mhm.
understand? But eventually, if you as a person see them as the end, then you failed. That means you failed in that area. But these things are only a test. You have to see them as a test. And that's what you need to do in your mind. Your mind needs to be very, very well structured against um, retrenching into a place where you feel setbacks are failures. So
Mm.
it's just a part of life. Understand that fact that setbacks are not failure. And strategies, like you said, include working on your mind, of
Mhm.
course, having a no retrenching mindset, resilience, as we call it, knowing that it's not going to be the end, even if we think that's it. It's not going to be the end. And that mindset, of course, most times can only come through a process of learning. Yeah, so for me, one thing that helped me was studying books, as funny as it sounds. So I could also recommend that. It may not be the best strategy, but I studied certain lives of different individuals. And John Maxwell wrote the book Failing Forward. I definitely read that book a couple of times.
Okay.
David Goggins also wrote a book, Can't Hurt Me. Yeah, that's the title, Can't Hurt Me. So I also read that. So um, building a mind of resilience will have you to study, probably read certain books, get to hear certain people speak, get encouragement from the stories of others, seeing that it's not a struggle that you're going through alone. It's really not so much of a difference from every other person out there in the world. So it's going to put you at a place where you feel like, okay, this is a test. And when your mind can see that this is a test, it's something that wants to probably see how strong I am, strong willed, and all of those things, then you'll be able to put that effort into seeing that you break through and get to the success lane. So, like I said, mindset, having a heart of resilience, studying, getting encouragement from others, seeing other people's story eventually is going to put you at a place where you are
Mhm.
willing and able to fail forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think those are.
Amazing,
Thank
Joseph.
you.
Now, can you also talk about a misconception about failure that you believe holds people back from reaching their full potential?
Yeah. So one misconception that I think is thinking that failure is seeing failure instead of seeing failure as a process, you are seeing it as the end result, or rather, seeing failing as a process, you see it as the end result. Yeah. So many times we could probably get to a point where we want something to happen instantaneously, and success doesn't happen like that. It's a series of processes. It
Mhm.
has to be from one to the next to the next, and it takes a period of preparation. Yeah, so it's very important to know that failure can't or failing can't be the end. It's just a process too. You get, and it's an accumulation of activities over time that gets you
Hmm.
to a point where you get to get those setbacks. You get, but learning also in that process to see that this is just another test, like I've been saying, is very important. So, like I said, a misconception by a lot of people is seeing it as the end, but it's not the end. It's you giving up. It's you throwing in the towel and laying back that eventually gets you to a place where you are completely going to be called a failure, or completely going to be said that you failed. Yeah,
Mhm.
there are a lot of people that have had issues around that. Warren Buffett talked about um, how that every decision he made in his career, he had a setback. He had a certain level of setback, and it's normal. Like, you get to see all these successful people. They talk about you like, oh, it's just expected. You get, it's just expected to see that you be faced with a lot of setback eventually, and the regrets many times is when you don't put out yourself for things. That's when you get to be in regret. But if you see a challenge coming up, try to see how you can think differently about that. Try to see how you can learn from past experiences and push through. See how you can come out of it, and then that's the way to go. Instead of getting to a point where you have this misconception that failure is the end. So that's a very big misconception over time, and failure can't be the end. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you, Naveen.
Amazing. I loved your perspective. Failure is not final and not fatal as well. I think that is the biggest thing. All right, Joseph. Now
Yeah.
let's shift gears and talk to us about your approach to risk taking and how it has changed as a result of your experiences with failure.
Okay. So this is a very good question, and I like the fact that you asked.
Mhm.
Okay. So risk taking as regards failure too. One thing that has helped me so far, like I talked about a book I read, The Goggins Can't Hurt Me. I recommend the book. It's very good in building your mindset towards things. Yeah, so it's good to look at the past, look at where you are coming from as regards what you are doing. Yeah, you learn from the past. If you don't learn, it's when you repeat processes. You understand? So learning is a very important part of life. We can't take it out of our entire existence. So we keep learning each day. Risk taking as per se. I can't say I just take risks. I take calculated risks, thoughtful and well calculated processes to all of what I take or what I do. So I can't even put it as risks in that sense. But of course, there are certain times where you don't know, you don't have it all figured out. You can't say what's going to happen eventually at the end. Yeah, but why not try? That's what I tell myself. Why not try? What if? What if it eventually works out? What if this becomes one of the biggest things you've ever done? And I like quoting Warren Buffett in one of his interviews. He said that the what he considers mistakes or failure in that sense is the chances he didn't take in businesses. Like,
Mhm.
he had opportunity to buy, I think, Microsoft or so, and of course, he said that he did not really have the knowledge to go forward because he likes to know exactly what's going to happen eventually. But there are certain businesses that he would have put in more investment that he head back, or there are certain businesses that he would have just adopted, but he had a certain resentment to them. And those were his biggest mistakes so far. So the whole truth about this is that don't hold back when you see opportunities. Don't be afraid to take risks, as it's been said, because risk taking is one of the ways to get ahead. You get so for me, the idea of failing forward has built in me that mindset to achieving great success by taking opportunities. Yeah, so let's put it that way, taking opportunities as it's were. So I don't overly think about it. What is the worst that could happen? You get to start again. Then fine. You start up from wherever you ended. You already have the map to where you got to. So of course it'll be easier for you to navigate your way back up. You get so why stay afraid when possibilities are out there that you can eventually get even bigger than you were if you just take that leap of faith. So for me, that's how I picture it. I picture the fact that it's another opportunity. Failing may come up, but of course, what if it works? That's the thing. What if it works? What if it works beyond the way you imagined? I don't think Mark, the owner of Facebook, he didn't consider all this. He didn't know how big Facebook would be, or Amazon. You get the founder of Amazon talked about how he had to pitch to, I think he pitched to 60 investors and only 20 bought in his investment. They summed up the 1 million naira which he used to start up. So you can imagine um, him relenting, not seeing that as an opportunity. Going, you get, he went over and over. Imagine pitching to 60 people just so that they can buy into your business. So the idea is one thing is very important. See the dream. If it's the dream you have, look beyond that and see the possibilities, the vision ahead of it. And I think that's going to help you in your adventure, risk taking, however you call it, opportunity taking. Yeah. So that's it.
So now let's talk about this concept of failing forward, and in what ways has this failing forward helped you grow personally and professionally?
Yeah. So I mean, we won't be here having this conversation if this has not helped me. I know you also have that resilience in you because we had to reschedule for this. And of course, I know it wasn't convenient in any way. So that alone is already showing that there's a certain percentage of die hard attitude in this. Yeah. So for me it has been an incredible journey so far, feeling forward and how it has helped me. So far my business has grown because of this, because of the fact that I do not take no as an answer. Yeah. So I sort of, because of this mindset, I've grown over time. Yeah, it gets dark, of course. It gets dark at times. I won't lie. It gets to a place where you feel like, okay, is this really going to work as you envisioned it? But of course, that's why you have to have positivity around you. You have to have people that have positive mindset, great influences. Like I spoke in my previous episode about mentorship. Yeah, so all of this eventually are going to add up to get you to a point where you have developed a very great mindset towards failing. Yeah, and seeing it as a process. Yeah, so that's one thing I've done so far that has helped me in my journey as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as an individual. Yeah, I see myself and I look at myself, see ways to grow, ways to improve, ways to be better, because you can't over hype yourself in that sense of, okay, you've got into that peak, which that's a false reality. So um one thing that is very important, at every instant that I've failed, I've looked at myself and tried to reevaluate, why did this happen, why did I not pull through. So I get to look at it, go back to the drawing board, eventually see, okay, this was what I did that made me to get to this point. Then of course I can do better. I can change this. If I change this, maybe this will happen. Let's try this approach. Let's try this approach. And I listen. I listen more than I speak. So I can say that too has been helpful because you get to listen and see people's opinion over things. Yeah. So with that, you'll be able to get a clearer picture. There are people who have gone ahead of you, obviously, and they've seen these processes over time. So with this in mind, I think that's how I have been able to, through failing forward, get to better achieve success.
Okay, so this is going great. And Joseph, I'm also curious about a habit or a practice that you adopted as a result of a failure and which now is contributing to your success.
Okay, an habit. Yeah, so one of the habits I've over time had is trying to share. I don't know if I can put it in a word, but I try to share my perspective and
Mhm.
get a another opinion. I do it a lot. Yes,
Mm.
so I share my perspective. I listen, like I said previously, I listen more than I speak. So that's something I've over time developed that came from failing to help me succeed. Because growing up, I think that also even affected me. I wanted to have a voice. I wanted to speak a lot. I wanted to have my own opinion because I felt like I've been silent too much. There are instances, like I said previously, that had I can point out in school. I remember in those times when I would have a teacher beat down my confidence level and make me feel like, oh, so I wanted to be outspoken, but over time, I got to learn, I got to see this approach of failing forward, and it has helped me develop a strong mindset, which allows me to listen,
Yeah.
allows me to see the perspective of others. I do that a lot, and I said it has helped me actually.
So, Joseph, how has this concept of failing forward influenced your decision making and leadership style?
Okay. So influencing my decision making now, it has helped me not to see people as the particular situation that they are in. So you get to be able to judge better instead of just outrightly condemning an individual. You are able to give them the chance to repeat a process and get better with it. So it's very funny, but I can now see myself in others. You get so I look at you and say, okay, maybe you are passing through a similar event that has played out in my life. And of course, in leading you, I'll just have to allow you get to that point where you are able to see differently, build that mindset just like I did
Mhm.
to be resilient against failure in that sense and not seeing failure as the end game. So now it's more or less like, oh, I'm able to encourage certain ideas, even if it looks like a failure at the initial stage. So you're able to put up your team together and communicate value to them, align yourself, see people in their current state, in their current situation, and not backlashing when you feel like, oh, this guy has messed up in this way. So it's more or less like it has given me a larger heart. Yeah, so I'm able to accommodate the excesses of people, and I see myself in their mistakes. We all grow together. So I think that's basically it.
This has been fabulous conversation, and I always enjoy talking to you. And you have brought in great
Thank you.
perspectives on failing forward. So it's time for us to add some more spice and some more excitement to the episode. So if you are ready, I'll start the second rapid fire round. Shall we get started?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Okay, here comes the first bullet. What's a book you have read recently that you couldn't put down?
David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
nice. And if you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
One skill, cooking.
Cooking.
Yes,
Okay,
should be. It should be because I don't think I'll fail forward in that.
okay, got it, got it. And what is your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Yeah, so my favorite way to unwind is getting to talk to people. I
Mm-hmm.
find it very, very relaxing. You get to
Mm-hmm.
hear people just talk. Most times I just listen. You
Yeah.
get, and I think it's one of the best way to relax for me.
Mm. And if you could travel to any fictional world, where would you go?
I've been thinking Zootopia. Zootopia. It's a
Zootopia.
fictional character. Yeah, it's cartoon. I think animated movies. Zootopia.
And what is the most spontaneous thing you have ever done?
Okay, giving money and it's spontaneous. Yeah, so at the point where you feel like okay, somebody is in need and you can help,
Mm-hmm.
why not? Yeah, so I think that's quite spontaneous for me. Yeah, because if you think about it too much, you may not you may not eventually do it. So and also taking up opportunities. I like thinking about that, but eventually it has to be something you make the decision as soon as you can. So
Got it. And here comes the last bullet. If you had the power to solve one world problem, what would it be?
word hunger. That's what the first thing that comes to mind. Hunger. Yeah, I think that's UN goals
Mm-hmm.
to solve world hunger. Yeah, so I think it's
World
a very,
hunger.
very important.
Yeah, got
Yeah,
it.
very,
Hunger.
very important.
Amazing. And let's flip back to the mainstream. And here comes the last question. What is your advice to someone who fears failure to the point that it paralyzes them from taking action?
Yeah, so my advice is simple: get up and get going.
Hmm.
You don't get the chance to quit. You don't. You don't get to that point where you feel like you have the power to quit. There are a lot of people depending on you. You can't quit. So whatever is making you paralyzed, get
Mm-hmm.
up and get going. See yourself differently. You can be all you want to be just by realizing the power of your mind, realizing that everything starts and ends with your mind. As far as you can look or as far as you see where you can go. So if you are having challenges and you feel like, oh, it's too much, get up and move. Just
Mm-hmm.
get up.
Amazing. And I loved every bit of this conversation. So, Joseph, thank you so much for joining me on this show once again. And I'm looking forward to many more episodes. So, thank you for taking time and have a great time ahead and wish you all the best on all your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Naveen. It's always a great time being on this show. I'm always excited. We always have great conversations. So I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure is mine. And thank you once again, Joseph. And friends, that was our episode with Joseph Eruge. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. In case if you haven't already, please subscribe to TGV, the Guiding Watch podcast, because subscribing keeps you updated on new episodes. And also, if you have enjoyed this episode and found the conversation useful, please share with at least three of your friends or colleagues who would also like the guiding voice. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. And thank you so much in advance. And let's learn together on this journey. Now let's cruise into the trivia segment. Having had amazing conversation with Joseph on failing forward, I thought I would give you few interesting facts related to fail fast. You know, the term fail fast has its roots in the field of agile software development, particularly in the agile manifesto principles. And it emphasizes the importance of quickly identifying and addressing failures or issues in a project's early stages rather than later when they become more costly and time consuming to fix. And the idea is to iterate rapidly, test the assumptions, and learn from failures to be able to improve the overall quality and success of the project. So, this approach promotes a culture of experimentation, adaptability, and also continuous improvement. Likewise, if you have any stories related to failing fast from any other domains, I would love to hear. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can comment there, or if you have found this episode on some social media platform, you can comment there as well. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV community. Folks, we would love to hear from you. So do not hesitate to share your ideas, feedback, topic recommendations, and guest speaker sessions either through social media or also through email. The guiding voice for you at gmail.com, and let's create content that resonates with you. I'm your host Naveen Samala, a lifelong learner, and my goal is to have impactful conversations that improve not only your life but also your career. So stay connected as we journey together. And until next time, Take care, stay inspired, and remember the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest.